Hey folks, John with Alternate Arms, your friend in less than lethal self-defense. I'm back, finally back. Guys, I gotta tell you, I get requests for videos all the time. A lot of you guys will see them down there in the comments. One of the biggest requested videos ever is modding the HDB. So let's get right to it. All right, guys, so look, okay, before I tell you about this, back away from the keyboard a little bit, just a little bit, back away a little bit. All right, here we go. Next week, all of the Gen 2 HDP 50, TR50, and other launcher, you've been waiting, the striker caps with the pressure release are coming in next week, which means that tonight I will have them available for purchase on the website. Now, I will tell you though, they probably aren't going to ship until the end of next week or at very latest the beginning of the following week, but they are coming in next week. I've got over 100 on order and I'm going to order more of them because I have a feeling a lot of you guys are going to want several of these. So, great news, they're finally in. They'll be up on the website tonight. For all you, by the way, anybody that wants to know my contact info, where to get a hold of me, what the website is, I always drop it down there in the description field of the video. So if you hit the description thing, it'll pop down there and it's got all those links in there for you. And that's not only for me, it's like for Kat-Luca. By the way, you'll notice this is still sitting here. I was testing other launchers in it. I have yet to find one that does not fit, and I have tested pretty much everything we have now. I'm waiting on a Kimber. Once the Kimber comes in, I have a very special video in mind that I'm going to do for you guys too, but we'll get to that later. So, all right, so here's the drill. This is a customer's. The HDB 68, guys, honestly, this is probably one of my absolute favorite home defense launchers. They're compact, they hold a lot of rounds, and they're just brutal. They have 16 rounds in this thing. I mean, you can like pepper them. But when they come from the manufacturer, they're a little anemic. They fire around 7.5 to 9 joules, depending on your ammo of choice. Okay, right? Because you're spraying a lot of rounds downrange and you mix that with a good high quality 68 caliber pepper round, it becomes a brutal self-defense item. But we can make it better. So this still has one of the Generation 1 valves in it. You guys, we've talked about that were just crimped, okay? So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna install the new Gen valve in there that's crimped and threaded, and then we're gonna pull the valve block out of this. I waited for you guys to do this because I want you to see how it's done, all right? So, moving to Stumpy, I want to show you. This is the actual new valve assembly, as you can see here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take my little custom-made tool, guys. And when I say custom-made, you see how long that stem is right there. Now, you can use standard bent pliers, grab onto that and twist it, okay? But I always found that I was putting pressure on this valve stem. So what I did is I took a valve key, right? And then I had it completely drilled through. So you can see the hole down in there. See that? So basically what that means is that when you take your valve, you put it on there and it goes all the way through, and then you can unscrew your valve from right here. Pretty neat, right? The guy that did this work for me is supposed to be doing a bunch more. I haven't heard from him in a while, but hopefully I'll be able to get in touch with him because I'd like to carry a few of these in the shop for you. All right, so we're going to unscrew the valve, and in the back here what you're going to see is a little black insert. You guys see that? Now that little black insert is the valve block. When you hear us refer to valve block, that's the valve block, okay? So what we're gonna do is, to pull this one out, it's a little bit different. You can't actually punch it from the front because you can see it's kind of flush in there, okay? So what you have to do is take a screw that fits into that hole, and you can use either a coarse deck screw or I've got a very coarse wood screw right here. And depending on the size of the hole, like that one's too big for a small deck screw, so I'm gonna go with a coarser screw. You simply put it in there. You screw it in a couple of threads. You don't have to get crazy with it, guys, just enough to grab onto it. All right, so we're going to screw it in a couple of threads. There we go. Okay, then what you do is you take your pliers and you simply pull it out. Guys, this is in there tight. Grab onto the valve, grab the pliers, and just pull. And I'm telling you, it's tight, okay? Now once you pull it out of there, And I'll go ahead and take that out so I can show it to you. That is the valve block in this one. Now, granted, this is one of the few with a plastic valve block. This and the compact, I believe. Most of them will have aluminum valve blocks, but as you can see, this takes up space in the chamber and it restricts the amount of airflow that gets through there through that little hole right there. That's what limits it down to 7.5 joules, okay? So we're gonna get rid of that. Now, the next thing, you wanna look in there and make sure, guys, also, if you're pulling some of these, and what I'm talking about is, on the valve blocks on like the HDP 50, the TR50 and a couple other ones, you'll have, as you can see on here, you've got like a little level difference right there. You see that little difference? There's going to be a little black O-ring on there. You want to make sure that if that O-ring did not come off with your valve block, that you pull it out of the inside of the valve. It'll be seated right down in there. You just don't want to blow that through the system, so make sure you get that completely out. All right, once that's out of there, you can go ahead and screw your cap back on. There we go. And where do I put our valve? There it is. Okay. And we'll go ahead and tighten this thing down. Once again, I love that, man. That just makes things so much easier when that can go through like that. So, yeah, I know. You know, it's funny, I thought about carrying a bunch of these and it occurred to me, most people who have an HDB, you're gonna do this mod exactly once, right? I mean, and then you'll never use it again for that. So, all right, got it in there, snug, about 1/4 of a turn, don't kill it. You don't have to crank that thing down. All right, now, the next thing we're gonna do with this one, so you just saw the removal of the valve block. Now, when you hear us refer to the CO2 restrictor, okay? And I'm gonna try to get a good view of this with Stumpy because it's kind of down in there. Do you see that little silver disc right there, okay? That little silver disc is the CO2 restrictor. Now, what that does is it limits the amount of CO2 that can go into the chamber between shots. That way, what you're getting is more consistency on your shots and you're gonna get more shots per CO2. But we don't care about that right now. The good thing about the Gen 2 valves, now, this is something huge, guys. Listen. If you buy a launcher with the new Gen 2 valves, and I'm talking about like the HDR68, HDP 50, so on and so forth, they won't have that restrictor. Only the valves that you buy, the upgrade valves, will have that pre-installed. And I've also noticed that on some of the new Gen 2 valves, some of these are threaded and some of these are tapped into place. So in this case, it's threaded. Take a large flat tip screwdriver. All right, and you want to put it right down in there, and you just unscrew it, just like a typical screw. All right, it's only in about 3 threads, and there it is. And as you can see, guys, if you look at that closely, that tiny, teensy little hole right in the middle. Now, you can drill this out incrementally if you want to stair-step your power up but still maintain that consistency. But when it comes to this, after you pull the valve block and you remove this, you're going to get about 10 to 12 shots out of it. And honestly, in a close combat scenario, or especially if somebody's close to you, that is going to be plenty. You just keep pulling the trigger. And we will be doing that in this video, FYI. So, all right, so valve block out. So your new valve is now prepped and ready to go. All right, so let's get to the HDB. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to keep this very easy. So I will do another video that is the complete teardown like we've done on all of them. But I want to do this as an upgrade video for you guys, just keeping it simple. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull off our Picatinny rail up on the top here. All right, and that is a 2.5 millimeter. There we go. Kind of like a hex key, almost like an Allen key actually, but yeah. And it's a 2.5, so there we go, and pull that off. Now I'm going to try to keep this in focus on Stumpy the whole time, guys. This one's not nearly as complicated as, say, the HDX, but I want to make sure we don't miss any steps. So, all right, there we go, and off with the Picatinny rail. And guys, when I do this, I try to leave the screws in the rail. And you'll understand why here in a second, especially when you're dealing with those screw holes right there, because those screw holes have got little tiny nuts on the inside of them that those screw into. And it's real simple to forget those or lose them. So be real careful with that. All right, so now that we got that out, we only have 1 pin that we need to knock through. And it does not have to come all the way out, guys. But if you look at the launcher, the 1 pin that you need is right here. All right, can you see a little pin right there? So we're going to go ahead and take our punch and we're going to knock that pin through. There we go, and we're going to punch that on through there. All right, down. Now, like I said, it does not need to come completely out the other side, as you can see right there, okay? All right, now, you can If you want, remove the entire top rail. You don't need to do that for this process, but you can, okay? So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen up the screws here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, all right? So I'm not gonna make you guys watch that. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen up these screws, and I'll be right back with you. All right, guys, so we've got all the screws have been loosened up in here. Now, you'll notice it already kind of starts to give way here. See how loose that gets? So what you want to do is lift up on the side. Now, look at that, guys. I want you to notice exactly what just happened. As soon as, and I haven't touched anything except for loosening the screws. As soon as you pull up, the entire side starts to come off. You got to be careful here, guys. Lift up the side. Now, the two things to watch very, 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 very closely, okay? First off, make sure that you don't pull any extra pieces out, and you'll understand why here in just a second. And second, I leave all the screws still in the this half of the launcher. That way you won't have to worry about losing the screws. So real slow on that part is the key. Now, the next part is we need to get to this valve, obviously. So to do that, we have to get to this assembly. To get to that, we have to pull these screws here so that I can lift this up and release the mechanism. Now, what I like to do is lock that forward. It'll stay out of your way, but occasionally that thing will pop up, so be careful or it'll snap the snot out of your finger. So just be careful with that, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna release this screw, we're gonna release this one, and we're gonna release this one. Hang on one second. All right, guys, as you can see, we actually have those 3 screws right there loosened up. Now, listen, one thing people are gonna ask is, why didn't I just take the bottom out of the top? It's not necessary. The less you take out, the less you have to reassemble. We'll do a total teardown video at a later point in time. But lift up on your valve body, and you'll see the entire thing comes forward. Lift up this little piece that you just unscrewed there, and you'll be able to pull out the assembly with the barrel. There you go, just like that. Now set the rest of this aside. Now see how clean we're keeping this, guys? That's the whole concept. We want to keep this clean. By the way, is there anybody else out there that thinks that might be a cool pistol? Just saying, just saying. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna break the valve body in half like we do on all the other ones. So we're gonna pull this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Be right back. All right, guys, you can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got them all loosened. Now, I've done a million of these things, but I will tell you that if you haven't done a million of these things, one thing you'll want to do is take pictures with your phone at different stages. And there is one big reason for that. And I'll tell you about it here in just a second. Hang on a second. All right, now we're going to separate the 2 halves of the body here, okay? Now what I usually use is a large flat tip screwdriver, and you want to go between the trigger guard and the body and just kind of pry up a little bit on the body. See how the whole thing starts to come apart? Guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Go very slow at this part and take your time. Once it comes free, lift the entire top free. Now, this is your barrel. And on this barrel, this is your detent. That is the rubber detent that occasionally you'll need to change. Guys, it's like maintenance on any firearm. Anytime you have a launcher, certain parts that are made out of rubber, you're going to have to replace from time to time. So that's a rubber detent, all right? Very simple to get to, very simple to upgrade. Now, here is the entire valve assembly. Now, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna pull the entire valve out, but one thing I wanna show you is this plate right here, okay? Now this plate, you'll notice how when you pull it out, it will fit in there upside down. So don't do that. And let me tell you why. What happens is it will appear by all functional aspects that it's working, but it will never feed around. So when you fire it, it sounds like it's firing, it looks like the mechanism's working, but it will never release around. I was teaching a guy how to mod these, and he was young. We're talking, 18-year-old kid, and he was just convinced he had it. He's like, I got this, just let me do it. And I watched him put that in upside down, and I'm like, you learn by making a mistake, right? So he did that, and it was just, could not figure out why it wasn't firing. Was blaming the ammo, was blaming the CO2. At the end of the day, I finally told him, you reversed apart. No, I didn't. So remember, when this is in here, this piece goes up like that, okay? Keep that notch up. If it's not up, you will have problems, I promise. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and remove that because I don't wanna have to mess with it. All right, I'm going to set it over here to the side. Now, this is just like the other firing mechanism. So when you grab this mechanism, you can lift up and pull the valve block out. And there she comes, just like that. See what I did? I didn't interfere with anything on the interior mechanism. I just lifted up on the back and pulled the valve block out, or the valve out. All right, pull it on out. And there you go. Now, I want to show you guys something. You'll notice that I pulled the spring, the bolt, and the bumper out together. Okay, those are all out together. That's what they, or some people have affectionately will call that the heat core ring. Okay, so the firing pin, for those who wonder, is actually down in there. And I don't know if you guys can see that or not. See that little thing that's with a screw head on it? That's the firing pin. You can install a slightly shorter firing pin. You'll get a little bit more power. But if it's too short, you'll also get double fires and misfires. And if it's too long, it won't fire at all. So really, I don't worry too much about the firing pin. I mean, you can put a little tiny bit shorter in, but it's not going to give you that much of a difference. So this is the original valve. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go ahead and steal the puncture cap there. There we go. And I want to show you guys, if you look up in there, see how that does not have a CO2 restrictor. Okay. You might also notice, and I don't know if you can see it clearly. I don't think it's going to give me a clear view. It's not threaded. It's easy to tell if it's threaded. If you look down in there, you'll have 3 prongs that kind of poke in like that. If those 3 prongs are in there, it's not a threaded version. It's one of the tap-in version restrictors. If it doesn't have those 3 prongs, it's a thread-in. So, also, let me show you why these things are so anemic from the factory. So, by the way, this valve will never get installed in another launcher. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. I have an entire box of these valves over there. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with them. All right, so wait for it. Oh, aluminum. Remember what I told you. Some are plastic, some are aluminum. Either way, make them go away. So that's the aluminum version we talked about. Now this one, you still would have to pull out from the back because it looks like I can't quite get a grip on it. So screw into it, pop that sucker out. But that's the aluminum we talked about. Okay. Now, we got our new valve. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the valve inside the O-ring first. There's O-ring, bolt, and spring. All right, kind of snaps in place. Now, push it into the receiver. And what we want to do is, once again, guys, hold the stuff down. All right, as you push this in, push it on into place, and then this will seat down on the, you've got a little indent right there where it'll seat down on, okay? And as you can see, we moved nothing. Everything is still 100% where it was. Now, granted, it's not always the case. So if you run into it and things come apart, this is why I say to take pictures of how things are sitting. It's real simple. There is a spring on the back side here too that kind of sometimes will fall out when you first lift the mechanism, just FYI, but it just goes right back into place. You can't really misplace it. So, all right, so we've got this all back into place. Let's put our plate on there. Ready for our plate? All right, here we go. Everybody watch. I'm going to get you all, there we go. And I'm going to put the plate on. There we go, right there. Okay, plate's on, right? Plate's on, right? Stumpy's plate on? No, it is not on right. See? I just want to see if you were paying attention. Flip it over, and you want the little bar thing up on the top. There we go. Now the plate's on right. All right, now we're going to go ahead and put on this. Now, do you remember what I told you about the little black washers that were the receiver for this Picatinny rail? Okay. Or excuse me, washer, nuts. Now look here, see that little black nut? It's there, right? What's missing here? They will fall out. So make sure you're very cautious of that when you pull these apart, those little black nuts. If you lose them, they are standard PC nuts. So if you're working on a PC, they use those tiny little nuts. They're the exact same size. But yeah, that's what those are. Be careful. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put the 2 halves back together again. There we go. And make sure that that little rail is in this little slide notch right there. There we go. See that little slide notch? All right, everything back in, back down, snap down. While you're here, pull your trigger. Make sure your whole mechanism is working correctly. And as you can see, it is working correctly and freely. Right? That's what we're going to do, right? No, because what did we forget? we forgot our barrel and detent. See guys, I want to do this for you like this because I want you to see exactly what's important, all right? Attention to details, take pictures. It really is important. All right, so the barrel sits directly in here. You'll see there's a carve out right there for the detent. All right, there's the detent. So you want to set that down in there just like that. All right, once that's in place, now you can put your two halves back together. All right, I'm not going to pull any more sneaks on you. All right, I just wanted to make sure that you guys were paying attention, because I know somebody out there is probably screaming at their screen, "You forgot the barrel!" So yeah, there you go. All right, let me go ahead and tighten this all back down. Be right back with you. All right, guys, now that we have it all back together here, make sure all your screws are nice and snug. Guys, don't go crazy with this. This is steel on aluminum, so just tighten it up. Just tighten it a little bit and then snug it a teensy bit. Don't go crazy with it. It's not necessary. All right, make sure everything is working. As you can see, everything is advancing. Everything is where it should be. All right, and we're good to go. Now, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and feed this back into the main assembly here. So we're gonna go up under the rail there. There we go. All the way forward. We're gonna lift up on this and slide it on into place. There we go, and into the barrel in the front. Once you are in place, it will all just kind of go right in where it needs to go, just like that. All right, seat everything back down where it's supposed to be. All right, as you can see, there's guide arms for almost everything, guys. It's real simple, all right? And then now, we're gonna tighten up these 3 screws again. All right, I'll do that with, I got you on camera here. I know you haven't been seeing me do the screw stuff, so. By the way, I am holding this extremely loosely, guys. So when you're hearing that go, it's not because I'm cranking the screw. It's because it hits a certain point and it just kind of jumps because I'm barely putting pressure on this. So they do not have to be super tight. They just don't. I love this screwdriver. Seriously, have you ever seen one of these? Check this out. Hold the button, nothing happens, right? Turn your hand. Isn't that cool? I'll throw a link for that down there. These things are really neat. I got that as a Christmas present last year, and it comes in real handy. All right, so we got this all back together, verifying we have our screws are tight here, here, and here. All of our body screws are back in where they should be. Our little valve extension back here, or our pressure indicator, is actually coming out the back here where it should be. By the way, I want to talk to you about this in a second too. Well, we'll get to that. All right, we're going to go ahead and put the second half of the launcher on. Now, one thing I'm going to show you about this launcher, guys, I don't want to turn this over because it's got screws in it, but you see this little belt or the harness clip? See how this comes out? Be careful when this comes apart. If that thing falls out, that you put it back in. It's not going to affect operation, but you'll be really pissed if you got to take your launcher apart again to fix it. So just be real careful if that falls down. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and put everything back into place here. There we go. You know what? I'm going to release the pressure on that. There we go. A little easier to manipulate it on the other side there. All right, going back down and up under everything. There you go. So it kind of seats right in where it's supposed to be once you've got it into position. There we go. Everything is down. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all the screws again, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so we've got all of our screws tightened down. We're going to flip the launcher over. And by the way, if you shake it like this and a screw falls out, you know you missed one. All right, we got our little pin right here. We're going to go ahead and take that down back into place. There we go, and then we're going to use a punch to get it even. There we go. And as you can see, it comes right on through where it's supposed to be. This, guys, just keeps this whole thing kind of snug and secure in here. So that's why I don't take the whole thing apart. It's just not necessary for this mod. All right, flip it back up. Let's put our Picatinny rail back on. There we go. And this will sit right in place, guys. It's real simple. And we're going to screw this back down. All right. That is all there is to modding the HDB. Now, the HDB is probably one of my favorites for a couple of reasons. The primary reason being because, number one, it's that easy to mod. It is very powerful. We are going to go out here and fire this in a second, by the way. And it's also highly upgradable. This is probably one of the easiest ones to HPA tap if you want to bottle feed one of these. Literally just threads right into the bottom. It's very, very simple to do that. Now, after the mod, when you're running on CO2, you're going to get, I'd say 8 to 10 full power shots, but you'll get right around 12 shots total. So here's what we're going to do. Let's see what our results are, shall we? And we're going to fire with our Grimberg Jewels. Y'all know the Grimberg Jewels become my favorite 68 caliber round, and they work really good in these. So, all right, let's go out on the range. Let's take a few shots and let's see what we did. HDB on the range. You can see we actually have our chronograph running over here. I've been calling that a chronometer this entire time. It actually says chronograph right there. Chronometer is a, what, clock, right? Yeah. All right, so what we're gonna do is, as you can see, I have got some Grimberg Jewels here, my favorite rounds, guys. All right, we're gonna take these out. Let's start with, are you hearing that thing clack? Sounds like a steel ball. Hold on a minute. I gotta tell you, when it comes to these Grimberg rounds, man, there is simply no exception. All right, so I've got 3, 6, 9. Yeah, that's what we're gonna run. We'll run 9 rounds because frankly, I don't think we're gonna get more than that. When you're firing the Grimberg Jewels, you're firing a much heavier round too, which probably explains why we get better numbers out of the Jewels than we do pretty much any other round, including the Burnus. So, all right, slide this forward, lock it in place, and drop in your rounds. Now we're gonna put in 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right, and we're gonna lock this in place. But as you can see, there's still room in there for at least another 4 or 5 rounds right there. Okay, so you can go all the way up with this thing. All right, here's what we're gonna do. Let's charge her up. And we are holding pressure on our new valve. As you can see, our little extension did pop out there. All right, I'm gonna, guys, this is a hard shot because this is a much longer than a pistol. So I'm gonna try to get a good reading. We're not aiming for anything in particular there, okay? So here we go. Let's just see if we get a good reading out of this thing. Hold on one second. Did you just see what that did to Scully? Okay, let's try it again. 313, 281, 271, error, 258, that's the other Scully, 250, 246, 216. You can see the power dropping off now. All your power is right at the beginning, and we're out. And that's it. Remember what I was telling you, 8 to 10 shots, but they're very heavy shots. Now I gotta know, all right, glasses off, what that did to poor Scully, because that first shot was not intentionally meant to actually impact. Oh, wow. Well, I think I see what it did. It went completely through here, out the back, and out this little hole right there. The other one took a direct face shot. Ooh, correction, a headshot. Okay, he was sitting up on an angle, right? So it caught him right here. You ready? Here we go. What do you guys think? Man, Grimberg Jewels. There are no exception. That is a crazy, crazy round. All right, guys, go back in the office, wrap this thing up. Here we go. All right, guys, so that's all there is to it. It's that simple to upgrade the valve in this. So if you've got one of the HDBs that have still got that old generation valve, man, do yourself a favor and upgrade this. It's a full power drop-in mod for this launcher. Now, I will tell you that if you use a CO2 restrictor in this thing on top of pulling out the valve block, you are going to get more consistent shots. It'll cut your power down a couple of joules, but you are going to get very consistent shots between shots. That's what that CO2 restrictor is designed to do, but it's not necessary to have it in place. You're not going to get a misfire. And as you guys saw, perfect feed, every single shot, never had a problem. And frankly, guys, I'm firing like this, like behind the camera. I mean, that's what this thing was. It was like that. And that's not, I mean, it just isn't a good shot. And yet I was still able to peg Scully every single time and like drilled right through him and blew his face off. Poor Scully. Won't be able to have any turkey this Thanksgiving. But yeah, so definitely do this mod. Guys, so once again, the caps will be coming in shortly. The question that somebody's going to ask me is, do those puncture caps fit the HDB? The short answer is no. The longer answer is yes, but you have to mod the handle. You've got to cut the bottom off the handle because it's just too fat and wide and it doesn't extend far enough in there. If it was extended down a little bit, now I've heard, in fact, today from Umarex, that they have a version of that quick release coming out for the HDB shortly, and we'll have those in stock also. That's just a little bit longer so it'll stick out the bottom there. Tonight, I'll have those on the website, though. You'll be ready to go on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is fun, right? I mean, seriously, we got to get back into these mod videos because we still need to do the HDS, the double barrel shotgun. We'll do that one here shortly, and I'll do a complete teardown like you've seen me do on the other ones where I just demolish everything and then put it all back together on this one shortly. But have a fantastic Thanksgiving, guys. I will see you guys next week. Please be safe out there, all right? Bye-bye.